Sound check. One. Sound check. One.
Welcome classic rock fans to another episode of Classic Gig Review. As I've said before, I really enjoy these videos as a welcome break from our enforced isolation, if you like. Now this gig I want to talk about took place on the 9th of October 1987, and it was Jethro Tull promoting their Crest of a Knave album. This whole Crest of a Knave period is fascinating for me because I love the way this album sounds. Now interestingly, of course, Ian Anderson started to incur some serious vocal issues from the mid-80s onwards, and it's never more apparent than perhaps on this album. His voice was still in fine form, he was still singing well, but the album had been recorded a few semitones lower than he would ordinarily sing, not straining his voice too much. The result was, of course, it gave him a kind of a huskier sound, and combine that with a very crisp and clear guitar sound that Martin Barr had produced for this album, and songs like Said She Was a Dancer, for example. The prevailing criticism was they are trying to sound like Dire Straits. They're trying to capitalise on or muscle in on the success of Brothers in Arms. For an interesting video, if you're interested, I've done a wonderful video on my Patreon called Voices from the Past. Look at Ian Anderson's voice changes from the last 50 years. It's quite an interesting video. Do check that out. Anyway, Crest of a Knave, of course, the tour was announced. We tried to get tickets for London, Hammersmith Odeon. I think they played. That was all sold out. So we wrote a letter and sent a cheque off to Birmingham NEC, which is the next closest gig. And in those days, I said you didn't buy tickets via the internet or anything like that. So anyway, eventually our tickets arrived. 3 tickets for me, my brother, and a friend of mine, and they were shit seats. They were right at the back. But hey ho, there you go. So anyway, the gig, it was fascinating seeing. Ian Anderson on stage was a tour de force. He really was, and like a whirling dervish. The way he'd move about and jump around and play and sing, he was just so entertaining. He doesn't move around like that anymore, but then he is a man in his 70s, of course. But his voice was fine. Everything had been rearranged really to accommodate his new range, so to speak. But they opened up with Songs from the Wood, which was quite an ambitious song to begin with, given his vocal difficulty, so to speak. But it was an interesting one to start off with. Now, if I remember the set list, which I've written down, some of the songs I remember them playing. I remember them off the Crest of a Knave album. They did Steel Monkey, Farm on the Freeway, Budapest, and Wind Up. Wind Up? Is that what it's called? I can't remember. Jumpstart, that's it. They did those ones, which were wonderful to hear. They also, Heavy Horses, what else? Wind Up, they ended with Dun Ring Ilbert's a great song to hear as well. It was a wonderful set, and I really, really enjoyed the concert. But what was more notable about this gig was that the merchandise was absolutely fabulous. Of course, that wonderful Crest of a Knave design made for a fantastic T-shirt, which unfortunately I do not have anymore. And, I remember buying a scarf, a T-shirt, a bandana, all sorts of crap that I would buy in those days when I went to gigs. I couldn't afford that now. Concert shirts are about 30 quid now, and way, way too expensive. I think this was probably the last concert shirt I actually shelled out for. It was Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers after all. Anyway, so we all, bags of merchandise everywhere, watched a great show, and I remember saying to one of the ushers, it must be great seeing lots of gigs for free, and she turned around and said, yeah, but sometimes you have to sit through crap like this. And I thought, you wouldn't get the staff at a venue talking to the audience like that anymore, but they were the days, I suppose. Obviously, I remember feeling quite taken aback by that. But we got the train back to Euston Station, couldn't get a train back to Reading, had to spend the night sleeping on Euston Station. Why we didn't shell out for a room, I don't know. But anyway, spent the whole night on Euston Station before making our way sheepishly home the next day on the early morning post train. Anyway, I've had a damn good rummage around for all my tour programmes and bits and pieces and bric-a-brac, and I've managed to uncover my original tour program, which, as you can see, looked absolutely stunning. Now, Jethro Tull tour programs back in the day were fabulous. They were always worth investing in. Ian Anderson put so much humour and wit into the writing of them, and you know, they were just, I mean, so entertaining, really. I mean, I used to read this well after the gig. They weren't just a collection of photographs which you got bored of after the event, but I mean, it's just such a nice, lavish affair. Let's turn this around so you can see it better. Isn't that great? Of course, this was the Don Airey was playing keyboards for them at this time. Now, I had the good fortune to meet Don Airey when he were playing with Deep Purple, and I asked him about his spell with Jethro Tull. Isn't that brilliant? And he said to me that he thought Ian Anderson was a genius, but he said no one is happy in that band. Take that to mean what you will. Ian Anderson has himself said in one of the notes to a CD reissue that he's a bit of a bugger, but I think we already know that. Isn't that brilliant? What a great programme. Wonderful Dame Perry on drunk, Don Airey, of course. Fairport Convention. Is this just an advert for Fairport Convention, or did they support Tull on this tour? I can't remember. I thought they supported them on the 20th anniversary tour, but I could be wrong. I could be wrong. Look at that, isn't that great? A lot of these pictures, if there's ever a 40th anniversary of Crest of a Knave, a lot of these pictures will make their way into that, I suspect. And of course, a wonderful crossword, which I wouldn't dare even think about completing, compiled by Ian Anderson, I suspect, considering the way it's written. And there we go, the Tull discography as it was then. Some shots from the Fish, Sheep and Rock and Roll documentary. There we go, there's the actual programme. And I don't know if you're interested or not, but here is my actual ticket as well. And there you go, there is my actual ticket for the event. Fascinating stroll down memory lane, that one. Anyway, it just leaves me to say thank you for watching. Hope you're all locked down and keeping safe. Please click like, subscribe, do check out the Facebook page, and do check out my Patreon for other ways to support this channel and for extra content if you enjoy my musings on music. Anyway, thank you very much.